This episode is sponsored by Fraze Flowers, a Western New York family-run flower farm and floral preservationist. They offer unique and one-of-a-kind pressed flowers in the shape of buffaloes. Every buffalo is handcrafted, and because they are made with flowers, each one has its own look and personality.
You can get a hold of them on their website at fraseflowers.com. That's Frase flowers.com. Or check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Bring more joy and color into your life at Fraze Flowers. What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Friday, March 7th, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Episode 340. Phil, I trimmed up the beard a little bit. It was getting a little straggly. It was at the point where I was waking up in the morning, and it was like, and I had to actually brush it. So,
yeah. I know the feeling.
I've woken up multiple times in the middle of the night and go, oh no, I've been sleeping on this side wrong, and then have to go like push it down and then sleep on the other side so Matt's down. So it's just like, okay, let's bring out the buzzer. Let's it's getting a little bit like, what was it? Tuesday and this is the weather segment. This is it was Tuesday and Wednesday, I think it was warmer. Wednesday was a little bit more windy and rainy, but the majority of the snow melted, and I think that was like the clue. Okay, it's time to like actually start getting ready for the spring and trim it down a little bit and save an extra 20 seconds in the morning where I get to sleep in an extra 20 seconds, I should say, not 20 minutes.
I feel like
seconds.
You do notice a difference though, like when it's a little shorter. That now that it's back to being freezing outside and it's supposed to be for the next few days.
Yes.
Of course, there's a Bandits home game, so it's going to be cold. Yep. Bundle up on your walk down to Key Bank, but I feel like you do notice a difference when you trim it. Like it doesn't seem like, I don't know, you would that big of a difference, but I feel like all of a sudden you're like, wow, it's real breezy on my face.
Yeah. This winter I decided to just like, I don't think I've touched it like at all. No trims, nothing since like, I don't know, maybe November. So I just let it go, and that's going to be the routine the rest of the winters of my life, just because my face was so much nicer. It's snow blowing that one time I had to when I got it started. And it blew onto my face, but it like froze to the hair, not my face. And I absolutely loved it. So yeah, moving forward, that'll be the game plan.
That's the play.
But if you're like us and you're getting ready for spring, because I was already doing some spring work with the dogs outside. If you have dogs, you know what I mean. The expert cleanups that have to be taken care of when the snow had piled up. Like normal winters, at least around here, you're a cat guy, so you don't understand the struggle.
I don't.
A lot of times in the Western New York winters, you get like the thaw out every once in a while. So you get to have opportunity to go back there and clean it up. There was no meltdown this winter. It had been just piling up since like December. So I had 3 months of work to do back there, and all the snow melted, and I'm just looking in the back. I'm like, man, there's a lot of dirt back there. Oh, that's not dirt. That's a lot of cleanup to do. So, that's in the life of PK. Welcome to the PK stories of him complaining about having dogs.
This is the poop segment. We've passed weather, and now we're onto the poop segment.
Instead of weather then sports, it's weather then poop. So
then sports. Well, I mean, it kind of continues. It continues with poop actually first, and then sports, because there's one more poop segment we got to talk about in a second.
Very true. But we'll get to that now. Pay the bills. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article came out on Tuesday. Give that a read before you head down to the bank. I don't know why more people don't call it the bank. I saw a lot of players doing it, and it's catching on a little bit.
The bank.
I'm going to start doing it. The bank. Check out Phil's article. Came out on Tuesday before you head down to the bank. And then my article came out on Thursday, week 15 of the power rankings. Not much changed this week. I rearranged a couple teams, but no epic risers or fallers because everything that happened in week 14 was pretty much expected, even though I still stink at picking the picks this year. You can check out our link tree. or you can check out our store on our link tree on all our social media sites, or just go to that website while you're there reading mine and Phil's article. Just hit the shop tab at the top of the website, go right to the store, order what you wish. You can represent the BSC on the go, and look for the time breakdowns on the description of the show before we dive into it. Another reminder, we're going to bust this out every single show until the watch party. We're taking over Tap That Tap Room on March 22nd for Bandits versus Firewolves. Merch, multiple ticket giveaways. The event is completely free. You do not have to pay to get there. All you have to do is pay for the drinks and the food you want. There is no admission cost. Even if you don't want to drink or eat, show up, watch the game for free with a bunch of other fans, and hey, maybe you'll win some BSC or Tap That Tap Room merch, and maybe you'll win tickets to the next home game too. So, I mean, you'll walk out of there a big winner, but we definitely want you to, spend some money on that 30 rotating taps. It's a great time. It's a great time. Let's pack the house. We want standing room only on the patio. I was looking at the weather. It'll be a brisk 45, so if you're not there early, you might be on the patio freezing your little butts off. So get there early, pack that house, and take over Tap That Tap Room with us. You're going to love some of these giveaways. We're in the process of getting them made, some of our stuff right now. Some of the other stuff's on its way, but everything will be here March 22nd. Excited to show you what we got. Phil, I know you were working really hard behind the scenes to get this thing set up. Wasn't expecting to be as excited for it as I am, even though I probably should have been all along.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about in the last episode, and we will pretty much every time we bring this up, just the opportunity to give stuff away to our listeners, to the fans, and even if you're not a listener or fan, you're going to be at Tap That Tap Room anyway. You're going to become one once you get some free merch from us. So that's part of the fun. But I mean, a big reason we're doing it is like we've been trying to give back for a long time, but we just simply have not had the resources to do so, and
the money.
This is truly our first opportunity that we've had a little bit of excess money that hasn't gone into programs or the website or anything that has gone back right into the show. This is the first time we've really had a little bit of spare change, and we are using it to give back to the listeners and the fans, and we are really excited to do so.
Yeah, as we keep saying, not only this money from the sponsorships goes into our pockets whatsoever, goes all right back into the show and to you, the listeners, as a giant appreciation for liking, subscribing, listening, whatever you do to help support the show. The smallest, the largest, doesn't matter. Anything, we greatly appreciate it. So come out and get an opportunity to win some merch. And if you don't, we'll have QR codes right around, so you can, if you feel sorry for not winning and something's really cool, you can just go to the website and order it right there and then, and represent the BSC on the go, like I say at the beginning of each show. But we'll move into the Sabres here. I don't really want to talk about the games. We'll go over very quickly, but I want to talk about, because the trade deadline is today, I believe at 4 o'clock. Monday versus Montreal, they lost 4-3 in overtime. Tuch, Tage, Dahlin were the goal scorers. Reimer, 16 of 20 saves. 36-20 shots in favor of Buffalo for 5 of the power play. Down 3-0 after 1. They scored 2 in the third to send it to overtime, including the game tire with 1:01 left on the clock. Bad goal allowed by Reimer in overtime and bad penalties by Buffalo. Tuesday, same story. Less points. 6-2 loss versus the worst team in the NHL. Round of applause. Peterka, Tage, goal scorers, UPL, 22 of 27 saves. Shots were 28-22 in favor of San Jose. Buffalo 1 for 2 on the power play, but they're sitting 24, 30, and 6 on the season. 54 points. 4 points back of Pittsburgh for not last in the East. They're 3 points ahead of Nashville for 4th last in the NHL. Yeah, but 2 things happen. Well, actually, 1 thing happened. Hopefully more things happen. Greenway signs 2 years, $4 million more, or 2 more years at $4 million for this team. He's sticking around for a little bit longer. And the trade deadline, like I mentioned, is today at 4 o'clock. Depending on when you're listening to this, it might have already passed. Sabres might have been involved and not involved. But I guess overall, before we get into it, what was your thoughts on the Greenway extension?
I mean, I like it. Overall, I mean, I said on the last episode you were hoping that he would get traded, and not in a mean way, but somebody who can bring something in for the Buffalo Sabres and possibly be an asset to a playoff team, being that physical...
A piece of a bigger deal. Yeah.
Right. Piece of a bigger deal, and that he's just that bigger power forward that is great for playoffs, and could have been a big part of a different team, but... got the extension done now, I guess. I don't know why particularly now, but outside of that, I do like it. I do like him on this team, and if the Sabres ever manage to make playoffs for the same reason that he would be good for another playoff team, he's going to be good for the Sabres. He's a good depth power forward who's physical, and when playoffs get physical, angry, nasty, that's the kind of player you want on your team. So if the Sabres ever make it again, which PK has them never making it again, but if they ever do, unless, maybe under a different name, not the Buffalo Sabres, they'll rebrand to something else and then make playoffs. But if they ever do, I do like him in general. $4 million per is fine, especially when we know they have to hit a cap floor at some point, which is depressing as well. But they have to do something to hit that cap floor. So he earned himself a cool extra $1 million a year. Good for him. Fine for the team. Not really exciting, but it's just a status quo kind of move.
Yeah, I didn't mind the signing whatsoever. If you paid a little bit more to keep him around, you're going to have to do that with players because you're the Buffalo Sabres. To me, it's more about two things. One, his availability just hasn't really been there. He's been hurt quite a bit since coming over. I have really liked his play when he's on the ice. It's just we haven't seen him on the ice too much in a Sabres uniform. But when he's there, he's a great penalty killer as well. So I think he does bring a lot to this team. I thought he's been one of the best forwards when he's been on the ice. The only disadvantage I see in this is another indication that they're going to run it back next year. I think Lindy's going to be back. I think the assistant coaches are going to be back. I am fully confident. Until proven otherwise, Kevin Adams is going to be back, because I don't know why Kevin Adams would get the green light to bring this guy back if Kevin Adams is not the GM next year. I don't expect them, and I guess this is a tie-in. I'll ask you the same question. Do you expect them to make any moves? I don't expect them to make any moves based on the rumors that have been out there. Tuck's been involved, Peterka, Cousins, everybody's been involved except for like Tage and Dahlin, because you're not moving Tage or Dahlin. From everything we're hearing, especially from Elliot Friedman a lot, is Buffalo's in every single conversation, but they're so afraid to get burned from past trades because players go on to win Stanley Cups. You can't be afraid. You're a dumpster fire. What else could go possibly wrong? You trade Peterka and he goes on to win. Like, Jeff Skinner gets released and he's going to the Edmonton Orioles and probably going to be making his first time playoffs ever. And I really like Jeff Skinner. Good for him. I'm happy for him. I know his season has not been as great with Edmonton as he probably hoped when he signed there, but still, you're making playoffs, and he's going to be playing Monday versus Edmonton anyway.
And the Sabres are still paying him a lot of money.
Yeah, he's still making money from the Sabres, and they're not going to make playoffs either. So I guess for me, I'm not expecting them to make any type of big moves as much as I've wanted them to the last 3, 4, 5 months. I just don't see it in the cards because big-time deals don't typically happen at the deadline. I could see them moving Yoki Haru. I could see them moving Jason Zucker at the deadline for some picks. But other than that, I don't see them involved in a bigger deal. I also don't see them trading off a ton of pieces besides maybe players that aren't going to be a part of the team next season.
Yeah. Sadly, as we've discussed plenty of times in this show, it's not as fun when we agree. But I agree. I do think it'd be nice if they traded Zucker because of the fact that he can come right back, like do something similar to what Toronto did in the NLL. Huh?
Would you want to come back to this?
No, but I mean, unless he's getting an extension now, like of all the
I know
players,
there's been rumors that
right.
He's trying to get an extension here, but it hasn't happened, and the deadline's here. So if he's not signed, you send him off, especially if he's not willing to commit long term.
But you're also willing to lose him for nothing if you don't send him off?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine. But what are you going to
You'd rather have him the rest of the season? Yeah. And you'd rather have him, sorry, mid-thought. You'd rather have him the rest of the season with the hopes that during the rest of the season you can kind of work on something for the off-season to bring him back? Or are you okay just having him and he doesn't want to come back and you just kind of move on and get nothing at the deadline?
Yeah. I'm fine with that. I mean, you're probably going to get a second-round pick for him. That's helpful in 5 years.
Yeah. And that's the other problem with the NHL draft, which I've talked about a million times. But the thing with the Sabres as well is that a lot of things that we've heard from Friedman is that they want now NHL-ready talent, which playoff teams are not going to give you because they need them now for the playoffs. And it's kind of like what you said about big deals aren't done at the deadline for that exact reason. It's small depth player deals. Occasionally there are big deals, yes. Not saying it never happens, but for what is available on the Sabres, it's not likely going to happen. I do think one of the bigger ones, which you named, would be Yoki Haru if someone's looking for defensive depth. And he's a UFA, and I don't know if he would come back either way. So
I don't want him back.
Right. You've been very hot and cold on him for a while. I do think he's one that could be traded. And, like, I don't know. The thing is, like, yes, a second means nothing right now, but you risk losing these players for nothing in the offseason. Then you really get nothing out of them. PK's over it. I don't know. Do I really expect them to do too much at the deadline? No. This team doesn't seem to want to make any moves in any kind of fashion at all. Reimer is another one who, realistically, if someone's looking for depth goaltending, is a veteran goalie. He's proven that he's okay. He's another one that could be moved simply to a team that lacks a solid backup goaltender. But realistically, do I see them doing much of anything? No.
Yeah, so again, if depending on when you're listening to this, you might already know if they made deals or not, and if they did, round of applause. If they didn't, yeah, they'll never make the playoffs again. Remember, if you think that way, good things happen. But they're tied 2-2 with Tampa Bay as we speak right now, and they got Florida on Saturday. Then next week they got Edmonton and Detroit. So the March to 82 is on, buddy. End this season.
Seattle Kraken are making big deals.
Yeah, we're just going to move past this. We'll move on to our next segment here, the BSC game update for the Buffalo Bandits. Same top 10, no changes in that. We did have some teams move up and some teams move down, but that's it. Jackson B is maintaining his number one spot, 859 points, but Phil, who's sitting in second right now, gained 6 points on him. He's sitting at 837. I'm in third. I fell 10 points further back of Phil, and that means Nick Weiss outscored Steve Priolo by 10 points. I am sitting in third, 780. Kim D moved up 2 spots to fourth, 745. Brooke is sitting in fifth, 739. Tim K moves down 2 spots, sitting in sixth, 737. Mike D is in seventh, 726. Stacy K in eighth, 716. Janelle L 713 and ninth, and then Nick B maintains that 10th spot, 692. Again, if you're still towards the bottom, maybe in the 20s, you still got 8 games to pile up the points. It can happen. A lot of things can change up here. Producer Pat falls down 1 spot to 15th, 669. Nice. And biggest riser, Juliet B, up 6 spots to 21.
Yeah, Nick Weiss had himself a nice little game, and the empty net goal was clutch. And when I heard that he was the one who scored it, I was like, there we go. That's the fantasy, the garbage time fantasy points like you get in football. We're getting them now for the Buffalo Bandits, and I am happy to be a part of it, as well as the 2 caused turnovers helped quite a bit as well. Priolo, you're amazing, and you were doing great things, but being in the in the box for 4 minutes didn't help. 6 minutes. Oh, yeah, the one before and then the double. 6 minutes in the box doesn't help.
No, especially when it's negative points.
Yes.
He's having a much quieter season than I was predicting. He was having a much quieter season than you were predicting as well, and you switched it up last minute because you didn't want the same team, and it ended up benefiting you. I should be in that second spot. This stinks. Okay, we'll get into our second sponsor of the show, Tap That Tap Room. We already mentioned it. We're going to be there on the 22nd. So will you. And where are you going to be? At 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. It's Buffalo's first woman-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer varieties of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
PK, on Saturday, we once again have a Bandits watch party for those who were not able to get tickets to the sold-out home game. That is, tick-out is tickets to a sold-out home game. That is what those are called.
It's going to catch on.
But if you went to the watch party last week, you could have won tickets to the sold-out home game this week. Don't miss that opportunity again. Go to the watch party if you don't have tickets. Have a blast. Try some drinks and win some tickets to the next home game. And then on Sunday, keep it rolling. It is a self-pour Sunday, St. Patty's edition, with 4 St. Patrick's Day themed drinks on tap, including Guinness in cans. And speaking of that, they are going to be playing a Split the G contest all day long. What is that? I had to look it up because I did not know. Well, they pour you some Guinness, and it is your job to take a drink and try to stop drinking where the drink level splits the G of the Guinness logo on the glass. Had no idea that was a thing, but you can win bragging rights and prizes all day long on Sunday for that. Check out what else is happening on their Facebook page, and check out tapthattaproom.com for what's on tap and what's on deck. They have something
for everyone. Producer Pat made a great graphic that we're going to post probably next week leading up to the watch party. And I dropped off some stuff that was getting made Wednesday with him, and he was making the graphic. And I'm reading through the graphic and just making sure everything's okay. And then I see we have something for everyone listed on it. And I laughed. I was like, yeah, I still haven't gotten my royalties for coming up with that. Still waiting for it. We'll have to collect it on the 22nd. But we'll dive into we should make a shirt or just get something because, they have something for everyone. Maybe make me a shirt. That's something. But Bandits versus Roughnecks. Make sure you look for our interview with associate. I said that wrong on the. You did. It's a bad one. Associate digital producer for the Calgary Roughnecks on Wednesday, Riley Pollock. He came on. He was great. It's about a 20 to 21 minute interview. He was fantastic on the show. Very informative. Love talking with him. I'm actually going to run into him Saturday because I'll be in the box, up in the press box. He said he's going to be there. Phil said the exit on that interview was a little awkward. I was like, yeah, but I was also not expecting him to say, yeah, I'm going to be in the box. Maybe we can catch up. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to make friends up there. But yeah, check out the interview on Wednesday. They came out on Wednesday. You can listen to it now. And that's another thing you can listen to on your way to the bank. It's catching up.
There you go.
I'm going to do it. And then I've got the opportunity to talk to John Gertler and Steve Bermel on Saturday at halftime. I'll be on the halftime show that's on radio only, 1520 The Bet. Check me out there, and I'd say watch for me there, but you just got to listen because it's radio only this week.
You can imagine, though.
You can maybe just take a still frame of this picture.
There you go. Oh,
and just have it right there for you.
Don't do that.
No, don't do that? Okay. Yeah, that was a great face. YouTube, go check that, clip it, make me a meme. I don't care. But yeah, he asked if I was available for the halftime. Excited for the opportunity and excited to talk to the great John Gertler, who is going to win the Tom Borelli Media Person of the Year award this year because it's my bold prediction, and all my bold predictions come true, Phil. We know that's true. But yeah, listen for me, 15:20 The Bet, probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. Even if you're at the game, just listen back. I think they're still on Odyssey. I don't know. Check back. I'll figure it out. But excited for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's really really cool. You shared it with us today that you found out, and today recording day, not episode release day, but no, it's really cool that you're going to be on the show, getting some local recognition, and we had to think for a minute why it was radio and not video, and it's once again a TSN national game, so the NLL brings in their peeps for the TSN broadcast side of things, so PK will be on the radio side. It's really cool, exciting opportunity for you, and I'm excited to hear what you got to say, see if I can get it on my phone at halftime. Maybe I was going to say plug in some headphones, like that's an option anymore. It's not. Bring the AirPods or something and try to listen in the middle of the bank where I will be.
Well done. Yeah, the only advice Phil gave me was don't choke like I did with the wing eating contest. I was like, I'll drink some Sprite before, first, and then you're like, oh, water. I was like, yeah, that's a good call. Phil graciously was the sacrificial lamb for our wing eating contest
did not go
participation. Well. You came in second. I think there was some shenanigans going on. It was
literally choking didn't help my cause, though.
No. Just to insult injury, you were also on that reverse cam, too.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of screen time for that great shirt that said Buffalo Sports Collective, though.
Unofficial.
Unofficial. But we'll dive into the Bandits versus Roughnecks now. Buffalo's coming in 9-1, leading the league. Roughnecks 6-6. kind of in that middle of the pack of 9 million teams that are 7-5, 6-6, 5-6, 5-7.
The pack you don't want to be a part of.
And then Rochester's 6-7 randomly because they play the most games. But Buffalo's coming in first in goals for 14.4. Calgary in fourth at 12.58. I'm just happy there wasn't a 4 in there. Goals against, Buffalo is third, 10.2. Calgary is 10th, 12.23. But remember, we're going to get into it. Nick Rose is now in net. Power play, very different. Buffalo's 9th at 43%. Calgary is 2nd at 53%. But the penalty kill is very similar. Buffalo's 5th at 60%. Calgary 4th at 61%.
Yeah, there's a lot to go into this game, especially with Nick Rose, which we'll get into a little bit later. But all aspects of it are going to be more of a test, I think, than it seems on paper for the Buffalo Bandits. I'm not saying they're going to. Everyone is a test. The Bandits are a test for everybody. They are number one. They have proven by far that they are the team to beat, and they are the upper echelon of the NLL. And I think, like you mentioned, previous to the Saskatchewan game, they are still in a tier of their own, especially after winning that game. They remain in a tier of their own. But I think the Roughnecks record you can't take at face value at 6-6, not only because of Nick Rose, but their offense is really good. Yes. And their offense is going to be a big test for this Buffalo defense that just played really, really well, but they had 6 consecutive games before that of allowing at least 10 goals, if not more, and then they finally had one where they only allowed 7. Looked really good. Vince looked amazing, but this is going to be a really big test. It's a really deep offense, so I think out of these battles throughout all the stats you just mentioned, I think the Calgary offense versus the Bandits defense, to me, is going to be number one. I know they just put up a little bit of a dud with only 8 goals against Colorado, but Ward had a really, really good game. I think he had 49 saves in that one, so It wasn't necessarily that the Roughnecks offense did poorly, but Ward stood on his head and played really well, and that's what Vince and the defense are going to have to do again. But it's another one of those, to me, prove that you're the best team in the league by far by knocking a team like this down. If you keep them to under 10 goals and win, you don't even need 12, 13, 14 goals to win it. But if you win 11-8, 11-9, something like that, I think you once again reestablish how dominant this team is. But if it's closer to a 14-13 high-scoring back-and-forth battle, I think you're trying to show that there are holes in this Bandits defense a little bit.
So as we do every week, we kind of look back at the last game that these two teams played, and similar to what we did with San Diego, the team looks very different from the last time Buffalo faced them. And it's been less than a year. It was April 13th in Buffalo last year. They took down Calgary 14-7 to kind of put them on. Their season was on ice at that point. They needed to get in. They finished 8-10 in that giant group and just fell short. And Buffalo was up 4-0 after one. They were up 9-2 at half, 11-5 after one. Shots were 54-50 in favor of Buffalo. Faceoffs 17-8 in favor of Buffalo. Faceoffs, each team had power play opportunities. Buffalo had 2 for 3. Calgary 2 for 5. But Calgary this year, they have no more Jeff Cornwall. They have no Seth Van Scheppen, no Shane Simpson, no Dan Taylor, no Josh Courier, no Zach Courier, no Thomas Hogarth, and no Christian Del Bianco. So this team looks completely different than the team that we saw last year in Buffalo, 11 months ago, but Tanner Cook was still there. He was 1 goal on 12 shots. You had King 1-3-4, Pace 2-2-4, Hayden Dixon 1-1-2, and then for Buffalo, everybody. It was a game where we have seen a lot this season where it was very spread around. Nanacook 3 points, Kluch 4 points. You had Byrne with 7, Smith with 7, Bucky and Frazier with 4, and then Vince makes 43 of 50 saves. So and I did look back. I'll dive into that numbers with Nick Rose the last time he faced Buffalo because he's going to be a net with Calgary. But you can only take the stats from that game with such a grain of sand because the team looks completely different. And you already mentioned it off the top that the offense alone looks completely different, let alone the back end and in net. Like each tier, each position group is completely different than last year. And it's kind of mind-boggling how a team that was 8-10 last year can look completely different and sit in 6-6 this season on the brink of pretty much shocking the NL world because nobody really had them, in a playoff spot. I had them dead last, and I thought they were one of the only teams that didn't improve in the offseason. Guess what? I'm an idiot, Phil. Continues to be an idiot for 4 years straight.
I mean, you were correct in a way.
The math
knew
was
that
there.
You knew that their offense was going to be what carried them if they were able to get to this position. And I think we're, even though I just said the exact same thing, we're giving a lot of credit to a 6-6 team. Their offense is elite, and that is the reason they are where they are. And yes, Nick Rose is a big addition, but they still are a 6-6 team. They still have plenty of holes in their team. You did not pick them to be last. I had them somewhere in the bottom, very, very bottom of my rankings as well. It wasn't for no reason. Yes, their offense could have gotten better. Yes, they had suspect goaltending going into the season, which is another big reason we had them ranked so low. Some of that has changed, but at the same time, a lot of what was the issue is still there. And yes, they're building. Yes, they're getting better. And we could see, like you said, they've already been a shock, I think, so far in the NLL season to be where they are. But at the same time, they are in a lot of trouble right now with that last loss they just had. We talked about it on the last show. Being 500 and being in the middle of things on one hand is good because we picked them to be very low. So they're in the middle of the playoff race, which is higher expectations than most of people expected. But at the same time, if you drop 2 in a row to the Bandits and you are looking at 6 and 8, at that point you're in trouble. So this is a huge, huge roadblock for their season. They need to prove not only that they can beat the number one team in the league and prove why they deserve to be in the playoffs, why they deserve to be talked about highly, but if they don't win those 2 games, I think you're talking about them kind of in a similar way that we did, not quite as bad as being last in the season, but I do think that this is a huge, huge test for them to truly figure out where they are as a team, but at the same time, like for the Rush, it was a really good test for them to see how they stack up against the number one team, but they're number 2, they're safe, they're in playoffs, they're fine. This is not the time you want to be tested as a team, because if you lose both of these games, you're in trouble for making playoffs really quickly. So one of the interesting aspects of this for a 6-6 team is they're going to be playing like their playoff lives depend on it, because they do. And a lot of what we've seen so far with the Bandits schedule, other than the Rush recently, is that a lot of these teams that they're playing, because of that massive logjam, are all playing with such an effort and just such
tenacity.
I have no idea. Intensity's not it. What is the word when you're like on the brink of not making play? Why am I lacking?
Desperation?
That is the word I was looking for. They are all playing desperate lacrosse, because if they lose any of these games, it's huge. If San Diego would have lost both of them to Buffalo, that is massive for their season. If the Roughnecks lose both of these games, they could be outside of playoffs immediately. Like, they cannot lose both of these games. So the Bandits know how to play against these teams because they've been doing most of the season, but it's different playing a team that is as desperate as the Roughnecks are going to be in these 2 games than it is the Bandits, who, yes, they want to win. Yes, they want home field advantage. It's not like they're going to come out and not play, but there's difference between a team that's sitting pretty and a team that is desperate to keep winning.
Yeah, so we'll kind of go over these players, but definitely go listen to Riley Pollock's interview, because we kind of went over nearly the entire team. So we'll go over the forwards real quick. To the lefties, Tanner Cook, number 12, Dane Dowie, turning back the clock. He's leading. He's a man on a mission. I think he's still on pace to set his own personal best in goals for a season at his age. It's very
impressive.
Number 44, Jesse King, one of the most underrated players in the league, number 19. And then Braden Maya. I found out that's how you pronounce his last name. Number 55 for the righties, Curtis Dixon, number 17. Hayden Dixon, I apologize, number 97. Matthew Gauthier, number 20, and then Tyler Pace, number 68. When I was talking to Riley, he said that it's pretty much back and forth between Gauthier and Maya, who gets in and who gets out. Maya is kind of, it's tough because he's behind Adobe, he's behind a Jesse King. It's tough to get in the lineup, and then you got Gauthier who's behind both Dixons and Pace, so it's tough for those younger guys to get in. But when I was talking to him, he said that there is if there is one area that Calgary can keep up or possibly even knock off the Bandits, it's going to have to be the goal scoring department. And they're littered with it. I mean, Dixon is leading the league in points, or no, he's second, I believe, in points with 76. He's got his partner in crime on the other side, Dane Dobbie. Jesse King's right there. Tyler Pace is keeping up. It's just, this offense is so littered with talent that you cannot take them lightly. You're looking at a record of 6-6, but they're 6-6 mostly because of their offense. Like, if they did not have this offense, they would be towards the bottom of the division. We said it in the offseason that their offense was going to be better than it was last year. Last year, they put up a 7 spot on Buffalo. This offense is completely different than it was last year. So you can throw out what you saw with the offense last year right out the window. This offense is very, very deadly, and they're littered with veterans that know how to win, have won before, and like you said, they're in the back half, the back third of their season. Every game at this point moving forward is playoff atmosphere. So when you're going in there with two guys like a Dane Dobbie and a Curtis Dixon that know what they need to do to win, it can be very dangerous.
Yes, and I think the big thing with looking at their offense is how balanced it is. Very similar to the Rush. They are not only depth, but on both sides of the ball, and I think that is what makes teams like this tricky. When we've talked about it before, sometimes teams have a very strong right side, but a weak left side, so you just cut off the right, force them to the left, and you're looking a little bit better. This team is very balanced on both sides, and not only balanced with high-class superstars, but at the same time, the depth on both sides is pretty stacked. I mean, in the last game, Tanner Cook, who you would consider probably their third lefty, he had a hat trick, and then Tyler Pace, who could be considered, I mean, he's their second righty, but not Dixon. He also had 2 goals. So even when the top guys like Adobe, a King, they aren't putting the ball in, they have other guys who not only can score 1 or 2, but can put up 3, 4, whoever gets hot in that moment. So it's kind of similar to the Bandits in that way, where they have the 1-2 punch of 2 top players, and then they have some really solid depth scoring behind it, and it's going to be tricky for the defense to kind of narrow in on one guy. It's going to be a very big team effort that every single defensive player needs to be able to step up in a big way, and they have to make sure their switches are flawless. Everything's going to have to run very, very smoothly. Hopefully they get some film on whatever Colorado was able to do, because they did a great job against this team, but it's going to be a big test for the Bandits defense, and hopefully they can come through and keep it locked down.
2 questions. When you say how deep they are on both sides, and when one person's not stepping or not performing, the other guys step up, does that remind you of any other team in the league?
I don't think so. I think
they're one of a kind. They're one of a kind. Maybe just Buffalo. Maybe it'd be a stretch. But second question is, when it comes to Buffalo's defense, I would not expect Dylan Robinson to make his return to this lineup. He was definitely a flat out last week. If it was upgraded to doubtful, I would say he has a question. He's got a chance to be questionable in this game and got a chance to play, but he was strictly out. I don't expect him to play maybe until April. Again, that's just all speculation. That's the biggest guess. I have no insight.
They don't have to rush him. So if they want him for playoffs, make sure he's fully healthy before he gets back.
It is March, so just keep an eye on maybe some Sweeting news. Again, just guesses, just based on Dietrich saying the offseason, maybe March for Sweeting, maybe. But my biggest question for you is, you got LaRue on one side and Dooley on the other. LaRue played in San Diego, you got Dooley in Saskatchewan. Do you continue to flip-flop back and forth, or you just try to give one of the two a bigger run and see what they got to kind of establish themselves as that next guy up? To me, I would lean Dooley just because he's the rookie. He's got more speed, especially when you lose a Spanger and a Robinson in the transition game. Steve Priolo kind of said, he was out there in San Diego multiple times, kind of leading the charge in the first and the third quarters, trying to be more of that transition role. Would you rather lean LaRue or Dooley in that spot?
I think exactly what you just said is the big difference between the two. Somehow, Dooley is older than LaRue, which is just ridiculous. LaRue is going to be
4th year in the league. This is Dooley's first. They're almost equal on games played, but somehow, LaRue is so much younger. It's mind-blowing. I got to keep reminding myself how young LaRue still is.
Yeah, still somehow younger than Dooley. I do think that is the difference. I think LaRue's a bigger boy out there, so it depends if you want a defender that can push around, but I think LaRue, as we've seen, has the transition ability, but he doesn't have quite the speed that Dooley does. LaRue did come into the league as a forward, so he has the ability to push transition, to stay out there and possibly, use some offensive ability. We haven't really seen it, which I'm kind of surprised at, that he hasn't really stayed out for too many offensive shifts at all.
More like transitioning to a lockdown defender type,
yes,
where it
which
doesn't
is just,
get a ton of stats, which is it's not bad at all. You got a Zach Belter and you got a Justin Martin who are elite on the back end that don't get the stats or recognition that they deserve, but he seems like he's trying to develop more into that lockdown defender type of role, who he also is guaranteed to get at least one minor penalty in the game. It's almost a guarantee.
But it's weird to take that out of him. Like, if he came in as an offensive player, I'm not saying that, like, I do think he's going to be more defensive than transition, but I'm surprised they aren't letting him.
Agreed.
It doesn't seem like they are giving him too much of a leeway to stay on the field and play any offense at all. When he came in as an offensive player, that's how they drafted him. So just interesting to see him run up and immediately give it to the offensive players. And even Priolo and Weiss are staying out more than he is on offense when he is built as an offensive player who's trying to learn defense. So it's just interesting to see them pull him as much as they are. But I do think it comes down to size versus speed. I think Dooley is much quicker. I think Dooley's faster on his feet as a defender as well. So it depends on kind of who you want to lock down. I think Doby and Dixon are obviously they're a little bit older, so they might not be as fast as some of these other guys, but King and, like you said, Maya, Gauthier, like, they're younger. Pace is younger. Those guys are going to be able to use their speed against a LaRue, whereas Dooley has played some pretty solid defense, and he still does have that transition ability in his game, and he does have the speed to get up quickly. So I think it just depends on what they're really looking for. But from what we've seen out of Dooley recently, personally, I would lean Dooley, just to kind of keep going with him, see what he has, especially because, like you said, he has more of that transition ability, which, again, still seems weird to me when the offensive player playing defense doesn't have as much transition ability as the defender. But I think Dooley is built more like a Robinson, where he's got that speed to transition and offense, and I don't think LaRue has that as much. So if for some reason there is some kind of long-term replacement for Robinson the rest of the season up until he comes back, even if he comes back, who knows what his injury is and how it could affect, maybe it'll reoccur in playoffs, who knows. I think Dooley is a more one-for-one replacement for a Robinson than LaRue is, so I could see them just keeping him out there to get him more experience as the season goes on.
Yeah, especially get back-to-back games, and I've mentioned it multiple times, he looks like a Dylan Robinson out there, so might as well replace a Dylan Robinson with a guy that looks like Dylan Robinson. But the defense that this offense is going against, that only put up 9 against Saskatchewan. Again, that sounded negative when I didn't mean it to sound negative. Justin Anasio, number 30, he's their faceoff man as well, plays dual roles, 63%. It's going to be another battle between the faceoff dot with Connor Farrell. I'm excited to see that one. Eli Salama's turning the season around. He was a trade target in the offseason when Calgary was kind of giving away everybody. I was hoping Buffalo would try to slide in there and get him. Bennett Smith, he's been playing unbelievable in his sophomore season. He's one that you got to watch in the transition games. 6 goals. Jack Follows, I apologize. He's a rookie. 11 to 12 games he's played in. You know, he's getting better and better each week, according to Riley. Reese Callies. You got Harrison Matsuzaka. John Lintz was out last week. We'll see if he makes his return, but he was a solid out, so I would be very interested to see that. Matt Sykes was first game in the NLL. I'll be interested to see what he and how he takes his game to the next level. So a lot of lesser known players back there, but a defense that is building in front of a guy like Nick Rose, where we can tie this in. 11.15 goals against, an 81 save percentage on the season. He's got a 10.84 goals against and a 78 save percentage. Those original numbers were just game 1 versus Calgary, and then versus Buffalo. Game 1 he was pulled in the 4th, 31 of 43 saves, and then this game 2 he was 43 of 56. So this will be game 3. Next week will game 4 facing Nick Rose. A lot of times that the goaltenders get the advantage over the shooters, you know, the more times you play them. But Buffalo has seen Nick Rose how many times, and they've been able to figure him out. But it'll be very interesting to see how Nick Rose is able to instruct the defense in front of him to kind of play the way he needs them to play against a Buffalo team where, you know, after the first quarter last week versus Colorado, they were able to shut down Colorado's offense pretty nicely, only allowing 6 the rest of the way. So it's as much as these are not household names on the back end, they are a defense that can shut your offense down if the right pieces are in the right places.
Yeah, and that's the big difference for me. Trying not to tie Nick Rose into this too much yet, but he had
You can do it. You can do it. We'll combine them all together.
All right, deal. So Nick Rose, for the last bajillion years, has had a ridiculously stacked Toronto defense in front of him.
Yes.
And this is not a negative against Nick Rose. He's still an incredible goalie. I'm not taking shots at him. But the defense in front of him is much, much different now than it was in Toronto. And in that first game, like you said, the second three quarters, the last three quarters of the game, he played really, really well. The defense played really well in front of him. So if that's all the adjustment it took, then that was an incredibly quick adjustment. And they really did shut down a very strong Colorado offense. Yes, Colorado's a bit banged up with no Zed Williams, officially out for the season, kind of as expected, but now official. That's going to hurt them quite a bit. But I think in that, last three quarters, shutting them down like they did, I think is a positive for Calgary. But at the same time, Buffalo was able to get to Nick Rose in front with a Toronto defense that was ridiculously stacked in front of him. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this Calgary defense handles a Buffalo offense and Nick Rose as well mixed in there. In the last game against Colorado with Nick Rose, he allowed 5 inside goals, 3 mid-range, 3 transition. So the big thing I took, not transition, 3 outside. The big thing I took from that, the outside ones, it looked like he should have had. They were kind of weak, but the inside ones, if Calgary's defense is not strong enough to hold Buffalo from getting inside on the crease, that is where Nick Rose can be a little bit weaker, where any goalie is a little bit weaker getting inside. And if Calgary's defense is not good enough to keep Buffalo contained to the outside, I think that's where it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for them. And I think that's where the difference between Toronto Nick Rose and Calgary Nick Rose are going to come in. Yes, Colorado's offense is really good, and in that first game they did a good job. Like you said, Calgary doesn't have the household names necessarily in defense, but they are still a defense that, if everything goes right, like you were saying, they can shut you down. Can they shut down and contain a Buffalo defense or Buffalo offense that has gotten to Nick Rose how many times when he's had an elite Toronto defense in front of him? Now he doesn't have quite that level of defense, and you still have the same Buffalo offense. I think it's going to be a really big test. I mean, I know this is obvious because this is how lacrosse and sports work, but I do think it's going to be offense versus defense for both teams. I don't think it's going to be which offense takes over. I think it's going to be which defense can stand up more to the opposing offense. Both offenses are very balanced and deep on both sides, but I think it's going to be the defense, whichever one can step up and really contain the opposing offense, is where it's going to be won or lost in this game.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll add is it might be very interesting to see how this offense adjusts, because while they might have the book on Nick Rose, they don't have the book on this defense in front of Nick Rose. So while they might think, okay, Nick Rose used to play it this way because of the defense in front of him, that might fool them a bit. So that's something that they're definitely going to have to watch for moving in on Saturday night. I remember it's a 6:30 game, not a 7:30 game. Keep an eye on that as you head down to the bank. But before we dive into our predictions, this is a nice little tease that they show in the business, draw and backfill. We'll get into our third and final sponsor of the show, the Totally Buffalo Store.
Totally Buffalo Store, their mission is to celebrate all things Buffalo with over 100 local artisans. Everything's local, shop local. We love it. They are your place to go when you need a gift for a friend or just want to get something for yourself. They have 3 locations, one in Amherst, one in Orchard Park, and one in Lewiston.
South Towns, North Towns, Middle Towns. I was talking to my mother today, which is Thursday. She was like, yeah, what is the Totally Buffalo Store? And I was like, yeah, they have over 100 local artists. And I was kind of giving her the whole spiel. And when she's back up here for the spring, summer, and fall seasons, because they go down there for winter.
Snowbirds.
Yep, that's it. She was like, yeah, I'm going to have to check them out. I was like, yeah, each vendor, and it's a really cool setup. And I was like, they got 3 locations, one in the south, one in the north, and one in the middle towns. But next weekend, my mother will not be there, but you can definitely be there. Friday the 14th and Saturday the 15th from 10 to 6. It's their annual Spring Fling 2-day sale, 10% off all apparel. So if you're like me and you're like the discounts, this is definitely the 2 days to go shop the Totally Buffalo Store. 30% off Zumbas. Did I say it right that time? Zubas. No. I'm never saying it right. It's not their fault. It's my fault. I can't read words correctly. Pants, 30% off. Again, definitely go there, because if it's the annual Spring Fling 2-day sale, you're going to get discounted stuff. Doorbusters with half off Ombre Bills zip-up jackets with the purchase of only spending $10 or more there. What a deal. Spend $10, get half off a zip-up jacket. Absolutely love it. And then free reusable shopping bags. You always need them, especially with New York. There's no more plastic bags. You always need more and more. A lot of times, like the ones my wife's gotten before, the handles just broke in the middle of the driveway, so we definitely need more. All you got to do is spend over $100, and with the amount of stuff they got, that each vendor has something unique, it's going to be really easy to spend over $100 there and get that free reusable bag. And then guess what? You can put all the stuff you just bought in that reusable bag, carry it out to your car. Absolutely love the Totally Buffalo store. They have something literally for anyone there. Absolutely love their stuff. And, with over 100 local artisans and a shop local and small, you're not going to get the same thing that you would get at a big box store. So absolutely love them. Check out their Facebook and Instagram for what currently is out there, and check out their website, totallybuffalostore.com, for what else they got in shop. Phil, I teased it before the sponsor read. What is your prediction for Buffalo versus Calgary? Game 1 of 2 in their home back-to-back weekends. This time starting off at the bank.
I want a really big Buffalo blowout to kind of reassert. They've had too many one-goal games recently, and I don't like it. Not a fan of it. I need a big win, but I do think it's going to be closer than I would like. But I'm going back to, I think we're going to go 13-10.
We're always really close, and then it just doesn't work out. I've got them winning 14-10. I think it'll be 14-8 at one point, and Calgary will score 2 later goals, which make it look better than it is. I can't see, especially in front of a sellout, in front of Bandit Land, after coming off a weaker game 9-7 versus Saskatchewan, that this offense is going to want to try to pour it on versus Nick Rose, who has struggled in his career versus Buffalo. So I got him fixing the offense. If you're not watching the YouTube, watch it. I'm doing air quotes. Fixing the offense and only scored 9 goals. Pathetic excuse.
And they've been away from the bank for a couple of weeks now.
They got to make a new deposit.
Get back to the sellout crowd. I was a little bit surprised to see it as a sellout, not in a bad way,
early.
but I feel like they haven't had a sellout in a little while. Really, really high numbers, obviously, 17,000, 18,000, but a sellout for this seems kind of random. But happy to see it. Love to get more fans in.
Yeah, I
Sell
think
it out every time.
It's very strange that we're we haven't seen a sellout, and most arenas can't even fill the barns 2/3 the way full. Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do
sellout's
with
very impressive.
They're sitting 9-1. I think that's part of it. You're starting to get into the warmer months of March, April and May, when fans start to swarm out. It's going to be, if you want tickets to games in April and
tough.
May, if you don't show up at Tap That Tap Room to get your free tickets, or you don't buy them now, you might not get a seat for the warmer weather games. So, let's keep selling out the bank. I'm just going to keep pounding that and just bury it. But milestone minute, the fastest milestone minute in all the land. Bandits have kind of been goofing me over here, Phil. It's been stacking up. We say it all the time. All these possible milestones can be found on X and Blue Sky. Yes, Blue Sky. I'm making sure that I'm 2 weeks in a row. At Buffalo Sports Co. on X and Blue Sky. Follow us there. We post, this is a great start. I'm going to screw this one up completely. We post them on the lead up to each game. So if you miss me when I'm flying through these at lightning speed and you don't want to listen back and you can't slow this down, you can check for them there. We got quite a few of them, so buckle up. I still haven't gotten my buckle yet, Phil. Here we go. Ian McKay is 4 points away from tying a new career high in points. Dane Smith is still 1 goal away from 400 for his career. He averages 2.11 a game. Steve Perillo is 5 loose balls away from 1,400 for his career. That's a lot of loose balls. I said it last week. Let's hope he gets it this time. He averages 6.12 a game. If he plays on Saturday, Josh Byrne will appear in his 100th career NLL regular season game. That's a lot of games. Chris Cloutier is 4 assists away from tying Pat McCready for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 1.82 a game for his Bandits career. Nick Weiss is 2 penalty minutes away from tying Andy Ogilvy for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 1.68 a game for his Bandits career. Nick Weiss is also 5 loose balls away from tying Rich Kilgore for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 5.89 a game for his Bandits career. And the last 3, Connor Farrell is 18 faceoffs away from 500 for his career. He is also 16 faceoffs away from passing Ian McKay for 8th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 28.35 a game. Last one, Dane Smith is 1 assist away from tying John Tavares for 10th place in a single Bandits season with 64 set back in 2001. If these sound familiar, I've been saying it for 3 weeks now. He is 2 away from tying himself with 65 set in 2016 for 9th place, and he is 3 away from tying Sean Evans for 8th set in 2019 with 66.
You did a great job.
Thanks. I only stumbled right in the beginning.
I believe, and I could be wrong about this, Lyle Thompson, right?
Yep.
Did he just get 350 for goals?
I believe 350 or 300. I know Cody Jamieson just got 350 for sure.
I thought they both got the same amount.
It's very
I think
possible,
they both hit 350. So, that being said, I was honestly a little shocked, no offense to Dane, but to hear Dane was that much farther ahead of Lyle in goal scoring. I know Dane is turned into Mr. Assists, and I know it's hard to remember when he set the record for 72 goals because it's been a little while, but still, it was, I don't know, I always considered Lyle such an incredible goal scorer, and he is.
He's taking shots at Lyle. He doesn't like Lyle. He thinks he's overrated and a bust. Get him. Attack him, Georgia. Get him.
He's the nicest player of the year every single year, forever. I do love Lyle, and I don't know. It was weird to hear that he's just got 350, and then Dane is on his way to 400. I just consider, like, if you put those two next to each other, I would consider Lyle the better goal scorer of the two. Just kind of thinking about their careers and not Dane.
I guess it depends on games played, also. So you got to factor that in as well.
I figured Lyle had more than Dane, but maybe not.
I doubt it. I think they were right around the same age, but I don't know if Lyle started when he was like 18, 19.
Dane did start real young. But, interesting little fact. But Dane, long story short, get to 400. Let's go.
Yeah, check this off the list. Stop stacking up things just to hear your name, Dane.
Also, you and Josh, we need more of a 8, 9, 10 point game, please.
Yeah, pick up the pace.
None of this 5 or 6. That's weak sauce.
It's pathetic. Make a bigger deposit at the bank. I'm going to keep hammering that in. Farrell, totally frenzy. I started last week. I'm going to continue it. He's 1,711 away from tying Jay Thornburg for first place in Buffalo Bandits history in faceoffs. He needs to average 28.35 a game, and that would take him 60.35 games to pass Jay. And then he is 1,026 faceoff wins away from tying Jay for first place. He needs to average 16.3, or he does average 16.3 faceoff wins a game. He is on pace to pass him in 62.95 games. Those numbers actually increased with his 9 for 20 performance last week, since they were both below his average. That's why the game needed to be played to pass that went up. So he needs a big face-off win game, and he needs a high-scoring game so he gets more opportunities.
No, he needs a less face-off win, low-scoring game, so my fantasy Bandits team continues on their trajectory.
Or just less loose balls. That's all he needs. He needs to win them clean.
That's fair. But
we'll look at the NLL outlook now. There are 5 other games on the docket. 3 and 8 Toronto Rock that are selling pieces like it's nobody's business. I would expect more moves on Sunday or Monday. Go to the 7 and 4 Halifax Thunderbirds. The Jenners have the call in that one Friday at 6:30. 6 and 7 Rochester trying to get back to 500, facing the 3 and 9 Vegas Desert Dogs Friday at 10:30. Same time, different place. 5 and 6 Vancouver, 5 and 6 San Diego. That is a monster game. Then Saturday, 7 o'clock, half an hour after the Bandits start. 3 and 9 Albany, 5 and 6 Philly. Philly desperately needs a win. Albany trying to play spoiler, and then the 9 and 3 Rush head to the 7 and 4 Georgia Swarm Saturday at 7:30. Monster games this week, but especially for 2 of those teams, Vancouver versus San Diego and Saskatchewan versus Georgia. Those are measuring stick games, and for Vancouver and San Diego, it's to try to sneak into a playoff position.
Before we get off the Bandits, real quick, because you and I forgot it on the last episode, and now we have forgotten it again.
Oh, good call. Good call. Yes.
Vince was looking a little bit beat up in the last game. Twice he was down for an extended period amount of time before he ended up very slowly getting up. At least twice that was on camera, if not more. So just something to keep an eye on with Vince. I don't know if they will bench him at any point to heal up, or if he is simply fight. I don't think he'd ever
for the injury report. I think that's the most important thing. If he's listed on the injury report, it's something to monitor.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to kind of keep an eye on him. Like every goal, every play, everything. Just kind of keep an eye on what he's doing after the play. He seems like he is fighting through something, and knowing Vince, he's going to continue fighting through it no matter what. But this team is focused on a championship, not winning season games. So it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, watch the injury report, see if Vince shows up on it, and if he does and he is fighting something, it'll be interesting to see how the Bandits end up kind of taking care of it as the season rolls on. Just something we both forgot twice now and wanted to bring up before we forgot it again.
Yeah, good call. I had it even in the doc last Monday and completely just skipped over.
I had it in my notes and also skipped over.
Yeah, but we also retweet and put out the injury reports. So either look for the NLL that comes out anywhere between like 10 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. They're really bad at it. They got to get better at posting it at a consistent time, especially if you're getting into the betting market.
Just do noon.
Yeah, just do noon and put it out
sounds
there.
Great.
That would be lovely. But yeah, we'll either put it out or just look for the NLL to put it out at a variety of different times. But that will end this episode. Again, I'll be up in the press box on Saturday. Phil will be down in Bandit Land. It's going to be a great time. Make sure you listen to 1520 The Bet. I will be on at halftime with John Gertler and Steve Bermel. Huge opportunity for the show. Honored to be a part of it and honored to represent the BSC as we move forward in this little role that we try to contribute and grow the game. But we will also break down the Roughnecks versus Buffalo Bandits game on the Monday show. We'll go over the two Sabres games and any possible moves they make on the deadline on Friday. But that will conclude this one. Drive safe down to the bank. Again, pounding. Dress warm and enjoy the sellout crowd. It's going to be absolutely
6:30 start. Don't forget
6:30. Fantastic experience. Can't wait to see you all down there from my little balcony up in the sky. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room, Totally Buffalo Store, and Phrase Flowers for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Remember, milestones posted there leading up to each game. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article Tuesday. Mine came out on Thursday. Give those a read. Check out our store and our link tree on our socials or at the shop tab atop the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.